when Paul called me the other day and he said, "What are you doing? What do I need to do?" And I told him, and he said, "I know what I'll do." And I said, "It's perfect." You know, when he gets up here and he talks, of course, he's my youngest son, and he's talking about Hannah, and I said, "You know who that reminds me of? Her daddy." That's exactly how her daddy was. Had the same kind of attitude. We're going to talk about, and for those of you who haven't been here before or are visiting and haven't been here for a while, our sermon series has been the Everyday Disciple. The disciple is basically a follower. Jesus said, I didn't say this, Jesus said, if you're not willing to take your cross up and follow Him, don't call yourself one. Okay? He said, if you're not willing to take up your cross and follow Him, you cannot be my disciple. So what we've been doing through this series is we've been looking at different texts out of the book of Luke and seeing what it says about discipleship. What does it look like? And the one I picked was when I found out about it, I said I want to do chapter 12 because it says at the end of the text that Jimmy read, and thank you, Jimmy, you did a great job, reading that. It says at the end of that, he says, everyone who is not rich toward the Father. And I thought, what does that mean, rich toward the Father? Because we live in a culture that is completely inundated with wealth and power and success and failure, and it all revolves around materialistic things and a materialistic world. And we get caught up in that. And he says here that if you're going to be a disciple, this is what you have to do. He said a disciple is going to strive to be rich towards God. It's what he's going to do. Well, I thought about it even farther down, and I said, we have a relationship with the Father. Because of Jesus, we have the opportunity for a relationship with the Father. I have the opportunity to be a son of the Father. Many of us, we have the opportunity to be sons and daughters of God. He gave us that opportunity. Jesus went to the cross, shed His blood, died on that cross, went in a tomb, on the third day rose again so that you and I could have a relationship with the Father. And because we have that relationship, our goal should be, what kind of child am I going to be? What kind of relationship do I want to have? Do I want to look at the text and say, okay, this is what I need to apply to my life? Or are you looking at it and saying, I don't really want to do that? Sadly, there are people in this building right now that you will make the decision today, yesterday, last week, next month, next year, and you will make the decision to not be a disciple of Christ. To not do it God's way, to do it your own way, the way you've been taught your whole life or whatever, and you will make the choice of when judgment comes, you have already made that choice. I don't know who you are. I'm just telling you, in a group this size, you're not going to go to heaven just because you wish it to be so and just because you show up at church. That's not the way this works. God said, you have to do what I'm telling you to do. You have to become the person I'm telling you to become. Otherwise, don't call yourself a disciple. So I looked at the rest of this chapter, and I found three things that I want us to look at. Three different texts that I want us to look at. The first one is in verse 30. It's in verse 22. You pull that one up for me. It says, then Jesus said to His disciples, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. Remember what He had just said. He had just said, hey, here's a parable. You want me to be an arbitrator and a judge between you and your family? No, I'm not going to do that. Here's the problem. You're focused on the wrong thing. You're focused on the money and not on what you're supposed to be spiritually. And he told him a story about the guy who said, I got too much stuff. I know what to do. I'll tear down my barns. I'll build bigger barns. And Jesus said, you're a fool. You fool. Don't you know this very night your soul will be required of you? Then what? Who's going to get your stuff? If you're not rich towards God, who's going to get your stuff? Your family? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to leave it to your family? That's what he said. And he tells him at the end of that text, he said, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves but is not rich towards God. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have jobs and we don't have bank accounts and all that stuff. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about where's your focus? When you focus on this other stuff so much that you can't be what God wants you to be, you won't be what God wants you to be, or you focused on this over here or that over there and not on God, you're not rich towards God. Period. And then he says in verse 22, he says, he said to his disciples, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you'll eat, or about your body, what you will wear. And he goes on in that text to say, I'll take care of the birds. Every one of us has watched a hummingbird, haven't you? In your backyard or wherever, in your garden, you watched a honeybee. You've watched these things, and you've watched them work from food source to food source, right? What, do you think they planned all this stuff? They hung the hummingbird feeder out in the thing with the colored water in it? Is that what you think? Or you think that God didn't take care of them? He said, look at the flowers in the field. God causes them to grow. You didn't do any of that. God caused them to grow. He said, so what are you worried about this stuff that has nothing to do with nothing? I understand we have to have jobs. I understand that. And we have to pay bills. It's about, where's my focus? Is my focus about becoming rich here and being a success here? Or is my focus about being rich towards God? If it's about being rich toward God, Jesus said, don't worry about that stuff. That's hard to do for a guy. It's hard, isn't it, guys? When you feel responsible for your families, when you feel responsible for putting food on the table and all that, and trusting and depending on God completely that God's going to take care of what you need. It doesn't mean that you can just go out and I'm not going to do anything. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, where is your focus? And he said, sometimes, and guys, I know, I did it, I know you did it. You make decisions in your family many times that your children have no clue what you're doing, right? Right? You don't even tell them because they're not going to understand it anyway. You're going to do things that seems impossible to them. Seems overwhelmingly impossible. If you read down in that text, he said, if you can't add an hour to your life, if you can't do this little thing, that's not a little thing, guys. Adding an hour to someone's life is not a little thing. And Jesus said, that's a little thing. So putting food on your table is no big deal. Quit worrying about it. Someone who is rich toward God has said, you know what? I'm done worrying about this stuff. I'm going to turn it over to God and let God handle it. That's someone who's decided in their minds, in their hearts, I'm going to be rich towards God. And then look down, there's another text. I want you to go down the second one. And it's in verse 29. Look at verse 29. It says, and do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. For the pagan world runs after such things, and your Father knows that you need them. But seek His kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. A disciple is someone who is seeking the kingdom of God every single day. Every single day, you're looking towards the kingdom and looking at how can I better it? How can I find it? How can I do what I need to do to make sure that I have the kingdom in my forefront of my mind? Colossians chapter 3 says that we are to, now that we've been washed clean, now that we've been come to God, we are to set our hearts and our minds on things above where God dwells. That's hard to do when your focus is on your job. That's hard to do when your focus is on your friends and your hobbies. That's hard to do. It's hard to do when you've got a hobby, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with hobbies, but when they get in the way of you focusing on God, it's the problem. You can't be rich towards God if there's other things in your life that are taking your capital. You understand what I'm saying? If something's taking your capital away and you can't give it to God, that's wrong. I was a hunter, know that, a long time ago, and my capital was my ability to be a bow hunter. I was really good. I practiced a lot. Ask my boys, they'll tell you. I had to pay them to go get my arrows. I had to pay them so much time to go fetch arrows for me because I was shooting thousands of arrows. But you know what happened? You want to know what happened? My hobby got in the way. I hunted in Kerrville, which is a long ways from here. And you don't go to Kerrville for the night. You had to go for 4, 5, 6 days at a time. And I was going 5, 6, 7 times a year during the season. What do you think happened? It became more important to me than my family, and it became more important to me than my God. And I almost lost my soul over it because the people I was hunting with was not people I needed to be hanging around. I didn't need to be around those people. And so when you look at this, and I look at this and I say, seek first His kingdom, that's not what I was doing. I was seeking my own physical kingdom that I wanted to create for myself, and that's not what God told me to do. God told us, if you're going to be a disciple, a true disciple, and you're going to be rich towards me, you're going to turn this around and you're going to start chasing me instead of chasing the allure of a hobby or the allure of a job or the allure of people or whatever it is for you. You can't be rich toward God when other things are in the way. It doesn't work that way. And so, when I looked at this and I said, God knows what I need. He knows. And He says that I'm supposed to set my heart on things above. Let God handle that stuff that I can't, that He knows knows better than I do what I need. He knows what I need in my spiritual walk. He knows what I need in my physical walk. He knows. Yeah, that's difficult, isn't it? Isn't it difficult? It's hard to do. It's hard to say, I'm going to give up control. Especially if you're a control freak like I am. It's hard. It takes work. You have to work at it. And you have to say, I'm going to do this because this is what Jesus just was talking to me. When Jimmy read that story was to me. It wasn't really to y'all. It was to me. I'm looking at it and saying, yep, that's what I need to start. I need to work on that. I still work on it. I still have to work on it to make sure that I'm putting God first in my life and not the other things around me. He'll humble you, especially when He does things that you believe are impossible. How many times has He done things in your life that you look around and say, that's impossible? You know what? I know them well, Paul and Delissa. They do things a lot of times that their kids look at and say, it's impossible. It's impossible. But it's not impossible for them because they're adults and they know what they're doing. It is impossible for a child. And I look at God and I said, I don't understand how you did that. I don't understand. I know you did it, but I don't understand how you did it. And I don't really understand at this point why. I don't know. But if I'm going to be rich toward Him and I'm going to be a true disciple, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to say, God, take care of it because I know that You're capable of taking care of it. And I'm going to turn this over to You. And then the last one, if you want to look at the last one, He says in verse, I think it's in, let's see. Verse 32. Verse 32. It says, do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. Don't be afraid. He is pleased. One of these days, those kids back there are going to look at, Mason sitting back there and he plays 6-man football. And it's a chore for his family. Right? It can be difficult. One of these days he's going to look around and he's going to be an adult. And he's going to have his own son. And he's going to think back on his mom and his dad spending all the time they spent taking him places. They went to Waco a while back just to go see a football. And you're going to say, man, it pleased my family to do this for me. It pleases the Father to give to you, His children. Think about it. There is no way that you wouldn't strive with everything you have to give your children what they need. Not necessarily what they want, but what they need. It pleases us, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Pleases us. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's overwhelming, but it pleases us. It pleased God to give us the kingdom, to put His Son on a cross, kill Him, put Him in a tomb, raise Him on the third day. It pleased Him to give us the kingdom of His Son, to give us the church, to give us the realm of Jesus to us. It pleased Him. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, you know what? I have everything to live for going towards Him. If I'm going to be a disciple, I've got to say, okay, I'm through being somebody else's disciple, and I'm going to be His disciple. I'm going to follow Him, and I'm going to let Him take care of the things that I'm striving to take care of and I can't take care of. How many are doing a really good job in our culture today, in our financial climate today, are having a tough time? How many of you have seen struggles happen in your life? You don't want to raise your hand? I go to the grocery store all the time. Okay? I see things that used to sell for 98 cents sell for $1.98. I see things that used to sell for $5 sell for $10 now. I see it all the time. And you know what I know? Somebody that I know is struggling because it's a real chore to be involved in this financial climate and still be struggling with the same amount of income that you had before. That's tough. And it can overwhelm you, can it? It can get overwhelmed. You know who I'm seeing nodding their heads? It's the little old ladies. That's who I'm seeing nodding their heads. I've seen 2 or 3 of them already. See, y'all look at the backs of their heads. I'm looking at the front. And I'm seeing 2 or 3 little old ladies that are going, yep, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. When we're focused on that, the struggle gets overwhelming. And Jesus said the simplistic thing of it is, turn it over to me. I'll take care of it. Well, how's he going to do that? I don't know. I don't know how he'll do it. But he's going to do it because he said so. Do you believe that? Do you believe that he said he's going to do it and he will? Do you believe that? You really believe it? I'm going to see, like, yes. Do you believe that? That God can take care of this? You think he can do what you haven't been able to do? You think he can? How is he going to do it? I don't know. Neither do you. It doesn't matter. It says it pleased him to give us the kingdom. It pleases him to do for us. We're his children, guys. You don't think that they were having a great laugh in their house the other day when Hannah was saying the things she was saying? It was a fun time in their house. God has a fun time with us because we're his children, and he loves us way more than Paul and Delissa love their children. Way more. Doesn't matter how old we get. Doesn't matter how successful he makes us. We're still his children. And when I understand that, it becomes a lot easier to be the disciple I'm supposed to be and turn it over to him and not worry about the nonsense that I have to worry about anymore. Quit worrying about it. It doesn't matter anymore. So as you sit there this morning, and I got one more verse here that I want to use for an invitation verse. Look at the last verse. It says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Where's your heart? Where's your treasure? Is God your treasure? Is the church your treasure? Have you become rich towards God, or you've become rich to the world? That's your choice. I can't make that choice for you. Only you can do that. And God's already said, here it is. Jesus said, here, do this. If you'll do this, I'll tell you, I'll make you a promise. We'll take care of it. We'll fix it for you. But you've got to do this. And he says, you pick up your cross and you follow me, and quit worrying about the stuff you can't do anything about. Quit being afraid of the things you can't do anything about, and focus on the things that he was pleased to give you already, the kingdom of his son. Focus on it. Embrace it. Embrace the absolute wonderment that he gave us, the kingdom of his son. Embrace that. You don't let God work for you. He wants to. He wants to work for you. And let go of the fear of what you can't do anything about. That's what a true disciple does. That's a true disciple that is rich towards God. And when he says in the invitation, he said, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. This morning, you have to decide, where is my heart? Is my heart in my job? Is my heart twisted up in the things that I'm trying to fix in my life? Yeah, in some of us. It's exactly where it is. It's where it was in mine for a long time. And then God started taking care of things. And you know what he had to do? Sometimes he has to knock you down. Sometimes he has to knock you down to help you stand back up. That's what he does. And you know what? He does it well. He really does. He wants to do it for you. We're going to sing a song in a minute, and we've got we do have someone coming forward, right? We have a young girl coming forward who wants to be baptized this morning. They have already sat down with us, and we have given our blessing. And I don't know if that matters to you at all, but it did to them. And so this morning, Rachel Harris is going to be baptized this morning into Christ. And I want us to keep kids in Bible hour. I want them to come out here. I want them to see this. I want them to be up here where they can see what's happening. This is the answer of a good conscience, of a clean conscience to God, saying, I am lost and I don't want to be lost anymore. God, help me. God, help me. That's what she's saying. She's saying, God, help me not to be lost anymore. That's how she feels. If that's how you feel this morning, hey, we'll baptize 2 or 3 this morning. We'll baptize a bunch of you if that's what you want to do. But we sing this song to give you the opportunity to come forward. And if you need us, there's not a lot of us here. I'm the only shepherd here this morning. So you have to find me, but I'd be more than happy to sit down with you, visit with you, and talk with you if you need me to. There's other deacons here. Glenn's here. Jim's here. Paul's here. There's all guys that are more than capable of talking to you. Vic's here. He can more than capable of sitting down and visiting with you if you need us. So whatever you need this morning, we're going to sing this song, and you come while we stand and sing.